The departure. Commander Elena Reyes stood motionless before the massive crystalline doors of the Grand Galactic Council chamber, her reflection fractured across 1,000 facets. Behind her, 23 human representatives waited in disciplined silence. For over 70 years, humanity had occupied these chambers as the youngest member of the interstellar community. Today would be their last. Are you certain about this course of action, Commander? Ambassador Julian Chen asked quietly, his weathered face showing the strain of months of failed negotiations. Elena didn't turn. The Council has made its position clear, Ambassador. They've dismissed our warnings, blocked our technology initiatives, and undermined our defense preparations for the last time. The doors parted with a harmonious chime, revealing the vast circular chamber beyond. 500 delegates from 87 species sat in rising tiers, their conversations creating a cacophony that died as the human delegation entered. At the center of the chamber, the 7-member High Council observed from their elevated platforms. High Chancellor Vrax, his translucent body pulsing with bioluminescent patterns, raised 4 of his 6 upper limbs in the traditional greeting. Commander Reyes, we are pleased you have reconsidered your position. Let us resume discussions about these concerns of yours. Elena's steps echoed across the chamber as she approached the central podium. She placed a small crystalline cube on the surface, activating the official communication record. Her voice, calm and measured, carried throughout the chamber. I come not to resume discussions, High Chancellor, but to formalize humanity's withdrawal from the Galactic Council, effective immediately. The chamber erupted in chaos. Delegates rose from their seats, translation devices struggling to keep up with the flood of protests and questions. The avian Kree-like representatives fluttered their wings in agitation, while the massive Druth delegates pounded their stone-like appendages against their stations. Chancellor Vrax's bioluminescence flashed in patterns of shock and anger. This is unprecedented. No species has ever withdrawn from the Council in over 12,000 years of galactic unity. Perhaps that is precisely the problem, Elena replied, her voice cutting through the din. The Council has become rigid, complacent. When humanity brought evidence of the void entities massing at the Cygnus border, you dismissed it as primitive human paranoia. When our scientists detected quantum fluctuations in the Orion barrier that matched historical records of the Scourge invasion, you classified our findings as classified speculation. Ambassador Chen stepped forward, his diplomatic training evident in his measured tone. For 70 years, we have contributed our unique perspectives, technologies, and resources to this council. For 70 years, we have been patronized, marginalized, and treated as intellectual inferiors despite consistently being proven correct in our assessments. From the upper tiers, First Minister Khalil of the Jorek Confederation rose, his serpentine form towering over neighboring delegates. You humans are so predictably emotional. This dramatic exit is nothing but a negotiating tactic. Elena turned to face him directly. This is no tactic, Minister. As we speak, human vessels are undocking from every council station across 27 sectors. Earth embassy personnel are being evacuated. Trade agreements are being formally dissolved under Section 4.3 of the Charter. Now genuine alarm spread through the chamber. The Jorek were among the species most dependent on human agricultural imports and medical technologies. Other delegates began frantically consulting their data terminals, confirming Elena's claims. Lieutenant Sasha Petrov, Elena's communications officer, approached and whispered in her ear, Commander, Phase 2 is complete. All human merchant vessels have cleared Council space. Defense forces are at 90% evacuation. Only diplomatic personnel remain. Chancellor Vrax descended from his platform, approaching Elena with unusual haste. Commander, surely we can find compromise. The economic disruption alone would be devastating to 16 member species. The defense implications. The time for compromise was during the 70 years you ignored our warnings, Elena interrupted. Humanity will now focus on preparing for what comes next, alone if necessary. From the scientific delegation, A tall, willowy figure with pale blue skin approached. Dr. Exceltor, the Council's most renowned astrophysicist, had been one of the few alien scientists who had collaborated meaningfully with humans. "Commander Reyes," he said, his translator converting his harmonics to human speech, "I have reviewed your data on the void entities. Your conclusions are sound. Many of us in the scientific community agree with humanity's assessment, even if the political leadership does not." Chancellor Vrax's bioluminescence pulsed with warning patterns. "Dr. Exceltor, you overstep your authority." "I speak scientific truth, Chancellor," Exceltor replied. "The humans have detected a genuine threat, one that matches the ancestral records of the fourth extinction cycle." A murmur of fear rippled through the chamber. The extinction cycles were semi-mythological periods of galactic history, taught to every council species as cautionary tales. Alina's expression remained unchanged, but Ambassador Chen allowed himself a small, sad smile. "We tried to warn you. We developed countermeasures, proposed defensive strategies. You blocked each one, calling them aggressive and destabilizing. The Council has survived for millennia by practicing caution and restraint." Vrax insisted. "What you call caution, we call stagnation," Alina replied. "What you call restraint, we call willful blindness. Humanity chooses a different path." The delegation turned as one, moving toward the exit. The silence in the chamber was heavier than any protest could have been. As they reached the doors, Alina paused and turned back. "We will establish a boundary zone at the former limits of Council space. Any Council vessels crossing this boundary will be considered hostile. However, any species wishing to establish independent relations with Earth may initiate contact through our border outposts." Dr. Exceltor hurried forward, something clutched in his six-fingered hand. "Commander, take this," he said quietly, pressing a small data crystal into her palm. "My complete research confirming your findings. Some of us may need refuge when the entities arrive." Alina's expression softened momentarily. "Thank you, Doctor. The Earth will remember its friends." As the human delegation departed, the remaining council members began arguing amongst themselves. Trade ministers calculated the catastrophic economic impact. Defense coordinators realized how dependent they had become on human military innovations. Scientists who had previously dismissed human theories now frantically reviewed the evidence. Aboard the Earth flagship Defiant, Alina watched through the viewport as the massive Council hub station receded into the distance. Lieutenant Petrov approached with a status report. "All human personnel accounted for. Commander, Earth Prime confirms Operation Clean Break is complete. We are officially independent of Council authority." Alina nodded, her eyes still on the diminishing station. "Send a fleet-wide message, Lieutenant. As of this moment, humanity stands alone. We will prepare for what's coming without Council interference." "Do you think they'll come around?" Petrov asked. "When they realize the threat is real." "Perhaps," Alina replied. "But it will be on our terms now. For too long, we compromised our security to maintain an alliance with species that never truly respected us. That ends today." As the Defiant engaged its hyperdrives, sensors detected unusual activity at the Cygnus border, exactly where human scientists had predicted the first incursion would begin. Alina allowed herself a grim smile. The Council would learn soon enough that humanity had been right all along. The only question was whether they would survive long enough to admit it. Behind them, the first waves of panic were already spreading through Council space as the economic and defensive implications of humanity's departure became clear. The galactic order that had stood unchanged for thousands of years had just experienced its first fracture. What would emerge from the coming chaos remained to be seen. The Reckoning. 6 months had passed since humanity's dramatic exit from the Galactic Council. Admiral Darius Wilson stood on the observation deck of New Horizons Station, Earth's newest and most advanced defensive outpost. Below, the colony world of Novaterra thrived with activity, new construction, bustling markets, and shipyards working at full capacity. Population increase of 17% in the last quarter alone, reported Captain Maya Indrani, sliding a data tablet across the polished obsidian table. Industrial output up 43%. Without council restrictions on technological development, our manufacturing efficiency has nearly doubled. Darius nodded, studying the impressive figures. And our defensive readiness. The Aegis system is operational at all major colonial hubs, Maya replied, bringing up a holographic display of Earth's territories. Blue shields pulsed around 27 worlds, void-resistant barriers, just as our scientists designed before the Council shut down the project. We've also completed the Quantum Early Warning Network. Maya hesitated before answering. Our intelligence networks report deterioration. Without human trade, 16 systems are facing critical resource shortages. The Zorak Confederation is particularly hard hit. Food riots on their outer colonies, medical systems collapsing without human biotech supplies. Darius showed no satisfaction at this news. And the void entities, still massing at the Cygnus border, Maya said, switching the display to show a dark, roiling mass of energy at the edge of former Council space. Our estimates suggest first contact within 30 standard days. They'll hit Council space first. The Admiral's communicator chimed with an urgent signal. Wilson here. Admiral, came the tense voice of Lieutenant Commander Jackson. We're detecting multiple unknown vessels approaching the Arcturus checkpoint. They're broadcasting on emergency channels, requesting immediate audience with Earth government. Council ships? Darius asked, already moving toward the exit. No, sir. The transponder identifies them as independent vessels from the Tel Tor Scientific Cooperative. They claim to have refugees. 20 minutes later, Darius stood in the station's diplomatic reception chamber as the airlock cycled open. First through was a familiar blue-skinned figure, Dr. Tor himself, looking considerably more haggard than when humanity had last encountered him at the Council chambers. Behind him came representatives of 7 different species, all bearing the insignia of the scientific cooperative rather than Council credentials. Admiral Wilson, Zeltor began, his translator struggling with his agitated harmonics. We come seeking asylum and to deliver a warning. The void has awakened. The images Zeltor projected onto the briefing room displays silenced everyone present. The Cygnus border colonies, once thriving Druth mining outposts, lay in ruins. Strange, shadow-like entities moved through the destruction, absorbing all energy they encountered. Council defense vessels, once considered the pinnacle of galactic military technology, disintegrated upon contact. They came 3 days ago, Zeltor explained, his 6-fingered hands trembling. Just as your scientists predicted, down to the exact coordinates. The Council was unprepared. They refused to believe until it was too late, added Dr. Lysandra, a Krelak neurophysicist. When the evidence became undeniable, they deployed defensive systems designed for conventional threats. Against the void entities, they were useless. Darius exchanged glances with Maya. What is the Council's response now? Zeltor's skin darkened with what humans had learned was the equivalent of bitter laughter. Chaos. Finger-pointing. The High Council is deadlocked. Half want to beg humanity for help, half refuse to admit they were wrong. Meanwhile, the void consumes more territory each cycle. Chancellor Vrax, Admiral Wilson asked. Dead. Zeltor replied flatly. He led the first defensive fleet personally. None returned. News of the void entity attacks reached Earth within hours. An emergency session of the Human Defense Council convened at Geneva Central. Commander Elena Reyes, now promoted to Admiral, addressed the assembled leadership. The situation we warned the Council about for decades has arrived, she stated, her voice echoing through the chamber. The question before us is simple but consequential. Do we help the very alliance that dismissed us, or do we focus exclusively on protecting human territories? The debate was heated. Secretary of Defense Matsuo argued forcefully for non-intervention. The Council made their choice. Our responsibility is to our own people. Ambassador Chen disagreed. If the void entities consume Council space, we'll face them alone, with our backs to the wall. Better to fight them in depth, with whatever allies we can salvage from the Council. President Okonkwo, who had maintained silence throughout the debate, finally spoke. We left the Council because they refused to prepare for this threat. We would be hypocrites to abandon the innocent beings of the galaxy to face it unprepared. However, she continued, raising a hand to quiet the murmurs. We will not simply hand over our technologies and defenses without conditions. 3 days later, Admiral Elena Rice stood on the bridge of the Earth dreadnought Vindicator as it led a fleet of 117 vessels toward the Cygnus border. Behind her, Ambassador Chen prepared to receive the delegation of Council representatives, those who had survived the initial void assault. The main view screen activated, showing the haggard face of acting Chancellor Khalil, the same Zoric minister who had accused humans of emotional theatrics 6 months earlier. Admiral Reyes, he began, his serpentine features rigid with forced dignity. The Galactic Council formally requests humanity's assistance against the extradimensional threat designated as the void entities. Elena allowed a moment of silence before responding. The Earth Union recognizes your request. Acting Chancellor, we are prepared to extend aid under the terms transmitted to your delegation. Do you accept these terms? The visible struggle on Khalil's face would have been amusing under different circumstances. The Council finds some of these conditions difficult. The void entities find your existence difficult, Chancellor, Elena replied evenly. Our terms are non-negotiable. Earth will coordinate all defensive operations. Council species will open their territories to human military forces. All technology restrictions against human innovation will be permanently lifted, and the Council governance structure will be reformed to give equal weight to all species, including humanity. This is unprecedented, Khalil protested weakly. So is the threat we face, Ambassador Chen interjected. Humanity tried to work within your system for 70 years. That system failed. Now we build something new, or we all perish separately. As the void entities advanced through former Council space, consuming world after world, the truth of Chen's words became impossible to deny. One by one, Council species signed the Earth Accords. Human vessels deployed to key defensive positions, bringing with them the shield technologies the Council had once deemed too aggressive to develop. At the Battle of Proxima Threshold, humanity demonstrated why it had earned its reputation for unpredictability. When conventional defenses failed to halt the void advance, Admiral Rice ordered the deployment of the experimental Nexus Protocol, linking human consciousness directly to weapons systems, creating a defensive matrix too complex and intuitive for the void entities to breach. The tide turned. For the first time, the void's advance was halted, then pushed back. 6 months after the first void attack, representatives of all spacefaring species, former Council members and independent worlds alike, gathered on Earth, where once there had been a galactic council dominated by ancient species. Now stood the Interstellar Alliance, with humanity prominently at its center. Admiral Rice, her uniform bearing the new insignia of the Alliance Defense Force, addressed the assembled delegates. The crisis is not over. The void has been pushed back, but not defeated. What we build now must be stronger than what came before. Not an alliance of convenience, but a true partnership of equals. Dr. Exceltor, now heading the Alliance Scientific Directorate, stepped forward. Through human ingenuity and courage, we have gained precious time. Now, with our combined knowledge and resources, we can develop permanent solutions. As the delegates filed out to begin their work, Ambassador Chen joined Elena at the viewport overlooking the Earth below. Do you think it will last? He asked quietly. Once the immediate threat passes, will they remember why the old council failed? Elena watched the blue-green world turning below. The homeworld humanity had risen from to reach the stars. They'll remember, she said with quiet certainty, because we'll be there to remind them. Humanity didn't leave the galactic community to abandon it. We left to save it. Sometimes the only way to build something better is to let the old structures fall. Beyond Earth's atmosphere, the combined fleet of the new alliance prepared for its next offensive against the void. Human vessels flew alongside ships from dozens of species, all following strategies developed by human military planners, all equipped with technologies born from human innovation freed from Council restrictions. The day humans abandoned the Galactic Council, panic had swept the stars. But from that panic had emerged something stronger, a true alliance of equals, with humanity's unique perspectives no longer marginalized, but celebrated as the key to survival. The universe would never be the same again. It would be better. I've created an original sci-fi story inspired by the humans abandoned the Galactic Council theme, but with completely new characters, plot elements, and scenarios. The story is divided into 2 parts of approximately 2,000 words each and follows the outline I provided at the beginning.